Hi, I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video, we're going to be finding out how can you become your higher self. I think it was 2 days ago, I did a video about messages from your higher self. Now here's the really cool thing. Due to the way time and space works and how things can overlap and exist in multiple points in time all at the same time, you can both talk to your higher self and be the version of yourself now. But here's the thing, the higher self is not separate though. It's not a spirit guide. It's not another being. It's not another person. It's in fact who you will become. But you can become your higher self right now in the next 5 minutes. And I don't mean just in a big way, you know how when people are seeking enlightenment or something like that, a lot of concentration, a lot of understanding, a lot of openness that people feel that takes a lot of work. You can make a choice right now and be in that headspace of your higher self, and then continue to make another choice, and then continue to be that way until a period of time goes by that you are just in fact that person. So being your higher self is incredibly attainable and just a great feeling. And one last thing, I'm kind of almost like advertising your higher self to yourself. You might say, why would I care about that? Why does that matter? Well, it doesn't matter if you are into spirituality or you're not into spirituality. Your higher self is the best version of yourself. It often relates to spirituality because the highest version of yourself is unbothered because they're so loving. They're incredibly open. They are open to all knowledge, and there tends to be this all-knowing effect to them, both to the fact that, with your higher self, when we're talking about the future version of you, they know everything because they've experienced everything to get to the higher version of themselves, so they know what's best for you now. Do you see what I'm saying? But I do find the more and more we're relaxed, and this is another trait of your higher self, we do just seem to be more psychically and intuitively privy to knowledge that might have seemed far from our grasp before. So the point is, it's kind of the best thing ever. And you just feel really relaxed and amazing and confident and calm and all these other beautiful traits. So who doesn't want that? So we're going to be looking into how you can become that. So as you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. I know this is a very tiny, small complaint, but I wish these purple cards underneath these cards didn't look so I don't know, they really pop in real life, and I don't know, on screen they don't hold their luster, and I wish you could see it, but no worries, that's just my personal aesthetic. So anyways, we have 4 groups in front of us. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that you resonate with most, or rather your higher self would. Let me give you a moment to do that. Now that you have, you can go down to the description below where you can skip to your designated group and mark timestamp. And let's get started to group number 1. Group number 1. Let's find out, how can you become your higher self by looking at the cards. I love to put on a show with my hands, my little hand movements. Queen of Cups in reverse. 5 of Swords in reverse, a hilarious 6 of Cups upright. I love a good dolphin in a rocking chair. Page of Wands in reverse, and 10 of Cups upright. I highly recommend, if you're a fellow tarot lover and like to buy new tarot cards like me, I highly recommend not looking too far in depth into your cards, because I'll kind of skim them over, but I try not to look at every single one, so that as I'm reading, it's for the first time I joyously get to be what is this? So let me look at this real quick. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to definitely be pulling some more cards, but let's start with what we can work with here. So this is really fun. over here in the Ten of Cups, this is probably one of our most important, it is the important, we'll describe it as the thread from who you are now to your higher self, kind of leading you there. The best way to compare it to is, what movie was it? Was it Kiki's Flying Delivery Service, where it was Howl's Moving Castle? That's what it was. Oh my goodness, so silly of me. You know what I'm talking about? The ring with the invisible thread that led her to like her heart's desire. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the thread you're following to yourself. And as you follow this connecting element exists both in the person you are now and the person that you will become. And this is important, but this is also important. But this is the thread I want to talk about first. So just to put it simply, it's all about bliss. See, when we go to the highest version of ourselves, that best version of ourselves, we might all be described as similar characteristics, but we're still different people, and even as our higher self, have differing opinions of what we find important to us. And for you, it's happiness. When you are your highest self, you're connecting to that most. You're noticing that most. Not the tranquility, not the additional knowledge, not the insightfulness, not all that jazz. That is also lovely too, but you often, revel and get excited about the fact that you're just so blissfully happy. And when I say happiness can be described in so many ways. This would be how do I put this? The most generalized, simplistic way of looking at happiness. So you wouldn't be happy just because you achieved something and then thinking about the achievement. You wouldn't just be happy because of the connection with someone else. It would be like after you thought about connecting with someone else, after you thought about winning, whatever you want, it would be the feeling right afterwards where you're just contemplating, wow, I'm so happy. And this is something that you can have now. So while you are living life, you're going to start vibrationally practicing happiness. And what I mean by that is, whenever you notice you're happy, don't try to hold on to it. Don't try to capture it. Just acknowledge and say, wow, I'm so happy. Maybe say out loud to yourself, my aim for today is to notice whenever I'm happy. And as you practice this more and more and more, you're essentially finding the thread to your higher self. Because I know we're talking about how to become, we are talking about the in-between stages, how to get there, and we're going to get in more detail. Hold on one moment, don't worry. It's going to sound a bit contradictory. But when we are achieving somewhere, or going somewhere, success-wise, whatever, we just don't need to know every single development, because well, that would be boring. And also, sometimes we can accidentally get in our own way. So sometimes having one simple sort of map or idea that we can follow, which is what we're going over, can do so much. And in this case, this is a very much law of attraction sort of vibe. Like, what you are emanating is what then you will attract to yourself. And because this version of yourself is so connected to the idea of happiness, well, we're going to connect to that a little more. This, in the Page of Wands in reverse, talks about that thread and connection, in case you're wondering what that card means. But let's go over here before we pull some cards for Six of Cups, because I'm very curious what Six of Cups is, especially with the Five of Swords popping up. So, now we know, this is what you want to focus on, this is where you're heading. This is sort of our indicator of when you're not focusing on your happiness. It's pretty obvious. It's about emotional imbalance. But it's more than that. See, the Queen of Cups is all about emotional balance due to her ability to flow from one event, good and bad, ups and downs, to the next seamlessly. She doesn't quite get stuck on one thing. So it doesn't mean the Queen of Cups doesn't experience things she doesn't like, things that would make us upset, and so on and so forth. It's just she doesn't get upset by them because she doesn't get hooked onto it and then stay there and then really sit in the moment. She acknowledges it and moves on, and she's flowing back and forth, beautifully. But when it's in reversed, well, she's not. She's getting caught up and upset when something doesn't feel good, and when something does feel good, she kind of wants to hold on to it a little too tightly. And in the happiness with the Ten of Cups, this is a beautiful flow. You're not really noticing when something goes bad because you're quickly, excitedly moving to the happiness. And when you're enjoying this happiness, you're not trying to hold on to it. So this is sort of your inner compass when this pops up. It's like, oop, I want to more focus on this. Now you might say, well, that's great, Supermoon. I'd love to not be emotionally imbalanced at times. How do I just not do that? Well, we have an answer in the cards, which I always love. Here's our first clue in the Five of Swords in reverse, and I have a feeling we're going to go into further depth into this in Six of Cups. So Five of Swords in reverse talks about you making amends. Making amends is this act of forgiveness, and I want to put this idea in your head. I know it can be hard sometimes to forgive someone because it's still not right what someone did to you, whether it be very big or even small. Like maybe someone cuts you off in traffic and you're like, yeah, that they cut me off. That was frustrating. But understand this, that when we are still mad at someone, when we can't let that go, it's like they have a cord, emotional cord, which by the way, cords do exist and you can spiritually cut them and feel a lot better. I can make a whole video on that if you'd love. I love talking about this. It's not talked about enough. It can make a huge difference in your day and your interactions with people. But anyways, you can have an emotional cord there and they just keep still upsetting you afterwards. That's why when you get cut off in traffic for a little while after, you're like, oh, they did this. You just can't let it go. And by forgiving, it doesn't mean you think it's right, but by choosing to let it go, well, you can feel a whole lot better. So just understand that simplicity of the thought, but I understand the magnitude of how difficult it can be. But things get easier when we practice them, when they feel like something we do all the time. So many people, the person you are now would have been so much more difficult to be than the person you were, we'll say, 5 years ago. But you had to practice. You had to have a chain of life events sort out and maybe even force you to practice it in order to be the person you are today. So just consider that as well. So just to put it simplistically, again, it's the same thing like happiness. You're going to practice forgiving. So anytime something happens right now and you don't like it, it's not your favorite thing, just try to stop for a second before you get mad. Just be like, okay, I'm a little mad, acknowledge it for a second. We're not trying to, like with the Queen of Cups, force yourself not to be mad. It's about processing it and then letting it go. And then as soon as you let out a breath and say, okay, I'm mad, whatever, you're going to quickly go, but I'm going to choose to forgive them. And not, I'm choosing to forgive them, you know what I mean? But be like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to swallow this, difficult, I'm totally forgetting the metaphor. When it's difficult to digest, you could say. Consider it like that. And even if you don't fully forgive them, even if it feels difficult, it will get easier. But you need to practice with the small stuff, like someone cutting you off in traffic and so on and so forth. But I do want you to practice this with people of the past because you have to start somewhere. You have to forgive somewhere. And you can forgive over and over and over again until it feels easier. You do need to make the choice to forgive, and I feel it's more effective if you really try to meditate in it and be like, I'm going to just forgive it, and then try not to contradict it. But if you need to forgive them and then you get mad at them again and you need to forgive them again, then do that. Do what you need to do. That there's no exact method that's perfect for everyone. You'll figure it out. You'll find your way. Divine timing truly is a thing. And you're going to laugh at the huge cosmic joke of it all, of how it all perfectly worked out in your favor. And you're going to be quite happy at the way it worked out. So, last card, Six of Cups. I'm going to pull some cards for this. Six of Cups talks about the past. And I want to know what's going on here. Well, that's pretty obvious. Okay, so this is talking about two specific things we want to do with this knowledge. So this just full on talks about something from your past. Well, it was not great, to put it very lightly. It's very, very, very intense, I can see. Something really bad happened, or something devastating that really still bothers you with this particular person. Let me ask my records. Can it be an event? Yes, it can be an event. So it can be an event and a person, or a person. It can be either or. The point is, it's big. I'm going to go over a reason why real quickly. I can see why it's big. Three of Swords in reverse talks about an act of betrayal that was such a big deal that you're just trying to move on. You're trying to push over it. But the Three of Swords indicates to us that you're brushing over it. You're wanting to sort of avoid it. This is why there's such a desire in the other cards to, in the Five of Swords in reverse down there, to make amends, to forgive this, because we can only truly let go when we do forgive in that kind of way. And so this is painful enough that you just want to get through it. You just want to push over it. You don't want to talk about it anymore. You're done. With the Justice card in reverse over here, I can see you're wronged on a deep level. The Justice card talks all about an equivalent exchange of anything from emotions to energy to fairness. It's a very fair card. And when it's in reverse and it's popping up in a social situation or an event that happened, it's like a deep level in you that goes, that was wrong, that wasn't right. That shouldn't have happened. That should not have happened. It's very emotional. It's very, because it's a core part of you. It feels like on a deep level, your scales were shifted. They didn't just lightly get tapped. Emotional stuff didn't happen around it. Your scales got shifted, and it does not feel good to feel off balanced. And then over here, last as our final indicator, is the Devil card. Interestingly enough, is helping show me two different things that need to happen in order to becoming your higher self, and sort of another compass scenario popping up. The Devil card shows me that someone did this to you, but how do I put this? Usually this pops up for unhealthy relationships or an unhealthy scenario, toxic scenario. Somebody made a conscious choice to do something, and it wasn't right, and they were aware of it. And they were intentionally pulling you down a path you didn't want to go to, and isn't really beneficial for you. Ironically, everything is beneficial for you, and ironically, everything can be used towards your greater knowledge, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, this is like our hint that this was all intentional. I can see how painful this is. The Devil would upright would totally cause this, and this totally makes sense. So what do we do with this knowledge other than see that it was a really big deal with you? Understandably. Well, one, we enjoy the fact that, oh wait, for sure was not in my head. It was not right what happened to me. That always feels good to hear. Let's go over that first. Second, this shows us that this is going to be hard to hear, but you're going to need to make amends with them mentally in your head. You don't have to see them. You don't have to agree with what they did was right at all. But you have to have a certain, whatever you need to say to yourself, it doesn't even have to be the word forgive. It's like, I see what you did. I'm going to choose to let this go. I'm going to choose to let you go from my memory so you don't affect me anymore. I'm going to choose to let go of the importance of who you are and what you did, because that's the reality. I understand whatever happened to you is important, but if you always keep it at a level of importance and always keep defining yourself at it, then that's where you'll be. I know that sounds a little bit blunt, and I apologize because I am sensitive to your feelings. But to put it simply, you can say to yourself when you're facing them in your head, when you're facing the event in your head, I'm more than this. I have so much more to do and live after this event. I don't see your importance anymore in my life. I'm choosing to let go of your importance. I'm choosing to let you go. So consider that a more easily identifiable way of looking at it rather than forgiveness, because forgiveness isn't the only way you have to let go, if you catch what I'm saying. And then the second thing is, and this is another important thing, we talk about how happiness is so important, right? Well, happiness is the main thing you're following here. One of our indicators with the Queen of Cups in reverse when you feel emotionally imbalanced is that you are doing the opposite. And so we want to solve this. We talk about making amends in order to then get you back on track of the happiness. Well, what's interesting here is the gift that you were given from this event, this situation, this person, was that you're very good at being able to identify now when something is going to head in that direction. It doesn't mean it will, not at all, but you can identify the toxic stuff. And the thing is, it's not just the same scenario. I want to be clear about this. It's not. I'm getting, my spirit guides are agreeing with me. They're like shaking their head. They're like, it's not this. It's not about this popping up again. It's not going to happen. Don't worry. It's not about this particular person. It's just the idea that you are aware of when there's unhealthy habits, toxic habits, things that aren't good, bad decisions that other people can make. You can witness it. You can see it. And this is an interesting form of a inner compass, because this sort of inner compass, if you will, you follow it. You just keep doing it. It will get better. This is like you see it, you run away. You know that is not the direction you want to go. In fact, it's a hard left. So interestingly enough, these are all your clues of getting you to your higher self. And I want to be clear about this. When you're feeling this sense of bliss and you're connecting to it, and you have that split second where nothing else is on your mind and you're just like, I'm happy. That's a split second when you're your higher self. People, just some last food for thought. If you always see your higher self as this like magical, unattainable thing, then that's what it will be. But you'd be shocked how much the stuff that you want flows in and out of your life seamlessly. And you see it and you experience it for a moment and then you let it go because you think, well, that wasn't it. And so the moment passes, it goes, oh, I'm not it, and goes away. But it is it. So you're much closer than you realize, which I love. I hope this helped and made your day in some kind of way. If you enjoyed this video, I would love to know, before I go into my spiel, just please let me know in the comments, what's something that's making you happy right now? I'd love to know. Let's see if we can help give that sort of energy and vibe to others and help also bring them up. And also by identifying it here and now, you can in turn feel happier. So yeah. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share it. Helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a lovely day. I am wishing you the best, and I will see you in the next one. Let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out, how can you become your higher self? By looking at the cards. We've got the Tower card in reverse, the King of Cups in reverse, the King of Pentacles in reverse, Six of Cups in reverse, and the Knight of Pentacles upright. Give me a second to look at this. Okay. Oh! I'm just asking my spirit guide something. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is going to be just a, how do I say this? It's going to be very specific in many other ways, but the one thing I am going to be vague about is what's going on in the Six of Cups in reverse. This is because I was just asking my spirit guides and I was like, oh, should I look into this deeper? And they were like, nope, this is all they need. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So, essentially, to put this simply, our first indicator of how you can become your higher self is by working and understanding with who you want to be. What is your dream version of yourself? How would you experience happiness most? Would money come to you easily? Would everything come to you easily? Would you feel relaxed? What are these ideas? Generally have a couple characteristics in your head. You don't have to be perfect about it or have every single detail lined up, but just, have a vibe you consider or would like to move towards, essentially. And then we want to be aware of what essentially is the opposite of that, because there's something popping up in that kind of way right now. And you're very aware of it, and it's holding you back. It's pulling you away. And we want to move you towards the opposite of that. So it's about dealing with the opposition in order to move you closer to where you really would like to go. The antithesis, we'll just encompass this idea with happiness, openness, feeling like you truly know who you are, confidence, certainty, you know what I mean? And we can get into how you can work with that, give you a sense of navigation, so it's not just like, cool, I don't want to be this way, awesome, that's great, I want to not be this way, how do I do that? So our first clue over here is in the Six of Cups in reverse. The main problem popping up is there's something from your past that is just sort of keeping a hold onto you. You keep returning to it, you keep referring to it, you keep thinking about how maybe you might need to heal from it. I'm not quite certain. I wanted to pull more cards about it, but my spirit guides are like, nope, they know what it is. They're living in the past about something. And over here with the Knight of Pentacles, it is showing you being pulled in that direction. Think of the outside scenario of the cards being away from your higher self. This is talking about going towards it. This is the answer. And as it's facing away from it, it's pulling you away from this question. It's pulling you away from even asking to ponder the idea of being the best version of yourself. So it truly is the entire opposite of it. Now, with the Knight of Pentacles, I can see it's a slow process. It's not happening overnight. You've got plenty of time to change this. But I do want you to keep in mind that often when we feel a sense of speed, and sometimes there is speed to things, you can feel the momentum of it, it has a dire effect on us. Like when something's really working out and you feel the speed is moving very quickly. It's exhilarating, but sometimes it can also be overwhelming. But you feel it, it's intense, it's a rush, it's like a roller coaster. Well, when it's moving this slowly, sometimes we feel that slow pace. And, well, it can feel, how do I say this? Because again, I don't know the exact scenario with the Six of Cups. It can make us feel fatigue. It can almost make us feel like we're crawling out of our skin. Like, you know, when someone's walking too slowly and you're trapped behind them and you're like, ah! It can be an explanation as to why you're feeling certain things, because you're both simultaneously being pulled by the past, and it's very uncomfortable because it's not where you'd like to go. But the speed is another sort of set of emotions and reactions that you're feeling. So when you feel what I'm describing here, this sense of being pulled back, the slowness that can result in traits like fatigue, like having trouble, maybe thinking. Sometimes it can result into sadness. My spirit guides are shaking their head. It's not very much sadness. Sadness would be more linked to the past. But the point is, this is a separate thing. Do not link it to this. But you are feeling it, and here's the explanation as to why you're feeling it, essentially. So let's go towards where we want to move. Oh, and one more thing before I talk about where we want to move and how we can navigate this. The Tower card shows me that this has been plaguing you for a long time. But it is the positive omen that, yeah, you're going to be overcoming this issue that's been kind of haunting you for some time now. So, what can we do? How can we work with this? With the Moose, specifically, the Moose is a spirit guide. I'll actually turn these upright because them being in reverse doesn't really mean anything here. So we can look at the cute pictures. They are moving in the direction when they were opposite towards the long-standing issue being solved, which we love that. But just understand they're meant to be turned in reverse to face that way to be the indicator. But we can look at the pictures now. So with the Moose is about working with long-standing issues. And I'm so sorry, not long-standing issues. The Moose is about working with oppositions in your life and saying, okay, if I feel this way, then I want to do the opposite. And sometimes, weirdly, that's as simple as it is. So if you feel like you're really, I'm trying to give examples. So let's say someone really hurt you and you always just think, yeah, they really hurt me. Well, then the opposite of that would be not to think about it, to think about anything else. Every time you think about the thought, you might want to change it to anything else. Look at anything else in the room and train yourself to look at that focus. Maybe you're having trouble forgiving, and then the opposite of that would be to trying your best to forgive them. Or if forgiveness is too big of a word for them, you think of the idea of you're not worth the importance of affecting me anymore, so I'm choosing to let this go, and so on and so forth. Whatever is not working for you now, you kind of want to do the opposite. So that's actually I've actually done this at points in my life, and it's been dramatically transformative. So understand and be patient with yourself and gentle with yourself if it's something that it needs a bit of training and practice in order to really get a handle onto, but it can be as simple as that. Because sometimes when you're like, well, what do? I have all these options. Nope, you got one. Just do the opposite. Can simplify it. We love simplification. But the moose is also working with the whale over here. The whale as a spirit guide is really interesting, and it actually perfectly fits in this scenario because, well, that's tarot and that's how it works. I love tarot. So the whale is somebody who's often described as the keeper of all time and knowledge. And that is a very big terminology to describe the idea of more what we want to talk about, is that when situations have happened ever in your life or continue to happen, because they are the keeper of all time and knowledge, past and future, they understand when something is emotionally impacting you and how it will impact you. So sorry about that. I thought I heard something like a noise starting to appear, so I paused it. Didn't. We're good. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The whale card. So with the whale card, going back to him being the keeper of all knowledge and time and being aware of how emotions impact us, this is about following that chain of events. Look at the past. What led up emotionally to get to that thing that bothered you so much? And think about who you are now and how bothered you are by it. What kept you to returning to this? This is about being aware enough that the awareness solves and helps you let go. Because sometimes by just seeing how the chain of events connected, you're like, oh, and it's like it's the magic key to letting go. Just by being aware of it. Sometimes it's about going, oh, I'm the one after a certain point that kept holding on to it and kept bringing it up to myself. Yes, that wasn't right what happened in the past, or yes, that bothered me, and that's okay that it bothered me. But I'm the one choosing to either find salvation or pain in the past. And sometimes by seeing the cycle or seeing how it's all impacting one another, the chain of events that led you to here, it can be really relieving, like a sense of relief, like, to be like, oh, I can stop doing that now. And that sense of awareness is in itself an indicator of your higher self. So something special I see about your higher self popping up. I'm just gonna say this. Your higher self might have similar traits to other people's higher self, like that general vibe of like, we're all loving, we're all knowledgeable, we're all patient, blah, blah, blah. But you're still your own unique person as your higher self, and your higher self might have certain things they are specifically good at or enjoy being good at, or find of importance or whatever in their life compared to someone else's higher self. You're still an individual. And in this scenario, for you, we get a clue that this kind of all weirdly worked in your favor. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's painful. But the solution is also a clue of who you are and who you are becoming. You are becoming someone who is aware, hyper aware of how everything connects and affects the other. And it's almost like you're an emotional time traveler. You can see the paths that can be forged and were forged. And you can do a lot with that knowledge. Not just to overcome your own personal issues, or maybe potentially if you want to help enlighten others, but this is a sort of navigational thing moving towards your long-term destiny of wherever you want to go in life. You can just pick it. You can just pick that's where I want to go. And your emotions and understanding how they can affect you or the scenario is sort of where you can navigate next. And you'll feel and know what's the right decision, because you are in turn aware of this idea. So follow that idea. It's not just about being aware of, oop, this opposition's really hurting you. We should alleviate that in order to get you closer to your higher self. But follow this. Follow for now the opposition to overcome this feeling of the past. But be aware that your insightfulness to your awareness to emotional impact at any point in the timeline is huge for you. I love this. Follow this. I'm excited to see where this goes. In fact, actually, I want to leave you with sort of a question. I'm just personally curious. Is this something you're aware of now? Is there something you could, if you're not aware of, you could right now be aware of? Practice it right now in the comments. Let me know, is there some way that you've realized how one emotional impact has connected to another and how that then affected another chain of events? I'd love to know. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Please consider leaving the video a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell and maybe even share it. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a beautiful day. I will see you with the next one. And yeah, let's get ready for, did I say I'm wishing you the best? I love to wish you the best. Let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out, how can you become your higher self? By looking at the cards. We have 9 of Swords upright, Queen of Cups upright, 10 of Pentacles upright, the Devil card in reverse, and the I have the hiccups. I think I do. I gasped, hiccuped. I love this. Okay. Oh, my third eye is like tingling like crazy. I love this. So this is really cool. We have a super rare, I don't get this a lot. This is, I think in total, in my entire time period on YouTube, I've only experienced this scenario maybe like 3 times, maybe something like that, 3 times. And that's including this time. So this is the O was not bad. The O was, I don't get to experience this very often. This is cool. So this is, what the rarity is a timeline. We are going to be altering your fate. We're going to be altering your timeline, which we love, especially when we have this scenario. You see what I'm saying? Over here. So there is a sort of path that you could be going down, a scenario. It does happen to not be pleasant. We don't want that for you. But sometimes when the scenario timeline changes, it's not purely because of a definition of good or bad. And if you see the bigger scenario of multiple lifetimes and what you learn each lifetime, technically even bad stuff isn't bad. But all that, sort of philosophizing. Okay. Sorry about that. All that philosophizing aside, we obviously it's an additional benefit. You don't have to deal with this. We love that. But we're going to be changing the timeline. We are going to be talking about how you will be changing the timeline. And I'm just being clear because I see the 9 of Swords here. You essentially might initially hearing this be worried and fixated and worried about being able to do what you need to do in order to change the timeline. If it feels difficult and it feels overwhelming, do not stress that then in turn this will happen. This is the confirmation over here and here that it is going to happen, that you will change the timeline now that you have this knowledge and the effort we'll be putting in. If it takes a little while because of, again, we're going to be getting more specific of what's going on in the 9 of Swords, that's okay. That's just sort of your destiny. It will take a little time. But let's get into specifics. So normally the Tower card, I'm a big fan of the Tower card. A lot of people hate it because they just simply defined it as quote unquote bad. But the Tower card is just change, big change. Like your daily schedule gets totally shifted because you got a new job or you had a baby or met the love of your life. It doesn't always have to be a negative scenario. But in this case, it actually is. We're going to see the Tower card as, I want you to notice the people falling. Something totally shifted, a huge change, lightning hit their building and now they can't live there anymore, and they're in fact falling out of the building. Well, we are shifting the timeline. We're turning it in reverse. You will in turn not be falling and hitting these rocks. We are pulling you away. With reverse, you're not going to go necessarily into the building, but maybe you will fly away into the sky and be free. It's going to be awesome. We love that for you. Freedom is actually an interesting choice of words here, because another scenario happening, and a little hint or clue into your tower scenario, is something was going to, we will describe it as metaphorical imprisonment. And I don't use those words ever with the devil card. It is a terminology that people facetiously use to feel like when you were trapped by someone. But I'm using them quite seriously here. It would feel that intense. And guess what? That is not going to be happening anymore. That's going to be shifting. That is why it was such not a great scenario. You were going to be terribly trapped by something in a very big way, and it was going to feel inescapable. No longer. That's goodbye. It's not going to be going your scenario anymore. But this route would have not led you essentially to your higher self, because you would have been so distracted. It's interesting, not to go on too long of a rant here, but anything can be fixed. You just have to actively choose to shift your focus. But understandably, if you're in emotional pain, or I don't want to get too serious here, but there are some serious things in the world, very serious. And if people were in that scenario, or you were in that scenario, it's understandable that they can't shift their focus towards where they want to go or happier thoughts when they're experiencing something so realistically devastating. They can. It is a choice they can make, but it's understandable why it's difficult or why they are unable to. And we can just totally sympathize with that and have compassion for that. Just sending some love and light to them, because I'm just thinking about them right now. Anyways, going on towards what we were saying. So this is the scenario you're going to be focusing on. That's not only going to free you from this timeline, but going to be a huge hint or sort of clue as to, it's so funny. Sometimes it's not what you need to do, what you not need to do. That is going to basically be opening the gates for your higher self, which we love. So let's talk about what's going on over here. This is sort of a fantasy that you have that's unfortunately been just making your life not great and been leading you towards this fate path. It's all about money. It's all about, this achievement in money. You want the 10 of Pentacles. You want wealth. You want long-term wealth. You want money like you would not believe. Maybe you even have fantasies about one day being able to give it down to your family and being a whole inheritive lineage because of how much money you have. And you want it to be big, and you want to feel like you never have to worry about money again. It's so gargantuan. Maybe your dreams are gargantuan when you buy it. We want to live in a mansion one day, or whatever that may be. But even if you're not thinking about particular scenarios, it just feels like this energy when you think about money is big and it's exciting, and you really resonate with the energy. But here's the thing. It doesn't feel like it's in your grasp, and it therefore causes you to focus on the fact that it's not within your grasp. I want you to focus on that idea. It's the focus not about the money, it's the focus that it is not within your grasp. And I can just see it has caused you to become incredibly overwhelmed, anxious. This card often deals with somebody dealing with constant repetitive thoughts. And when we have one thought set in our head over and over again, no matter what that thought is, it feels like imprisonment. It is super uncomfortable. To give you an example, just real lightly, it's like, and this is to have compassion for yourself so you don't beat yourself up for this. But imagine if anybody heard over and over again, orange, 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 for 72 hours. They would lose their mind. So if you think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stop this? Well, you're a completely normal person having a very normal reaction. So be gentler to yourself. Be nicer to yourself. You're just responding appropriately. And the main thing we see going on here, it's sort of a self-awareness thing, is you're aware that if you weren't like this, if you were more emotionally balanced, able to not get kind of hooked up on the small stuff, focus on it, let go easier, flow within the good and the bad, kind of not be stuck in this one place. You're aware it would help with the money. There's a self-awareness scenario going here. You're aware that you're off. You're aware that you need to not be off in order to bring in this vibration in your life. But here's the thing. You're being asked to, in order to become your higher self, you're giving all of this up. You're letting it go. I want to be clear about something. You're not letting go of wealth. You can still have wealth in the long term of your life. But right now, these thoughts are poisonous to you. They're not working. You have not developed yet the ability to think about the idea of wealth as equivalently as you would think about getting a popsicle. And that's a clue here. Your higher self, and I want to be clear, I've been saying this on and on, but I'm going to just repeat it again here. Your higher self is has similar traits to other people. You know, you're all loving, maybe you're all patient, you're all very all-knowing, so to speak. But you still have your individual identities. Higher self is different than like enlightenment. It's your higher self is experiencing a form of enlightenment, but you have your own individual things you find a particular excitement about. And this is a clue of your higher self. Your higher self is able to see each scenario as just as important from the next and just as insignificant from the next. So you are constantly, as your higher self, living in a state of freedom because you're experiencing an equivalent amount of worry and happiness from each individual event and scenario. So you find just as much happiness in a popsicle as you do as receiving all the wealth you've ever wanted in the world. And you receive just as much pain from not getting a popsicle as you do from not being able to receive your dreams. And I mean more towards the popsicle than when you don't get the popsicle, you don't freak out. You just go, oh, well, whatever, I won't have a popsicle today. I'll have something else. I'll have another treat that I like. And when you don't get that money, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's whatever. I'll go do something else. It's very much a similar scenario. It's a very happy state that you love and you find a particular interest in. And so you're exercising by letting go of your we'll say white whale of issues that plagues your every thought. So the first thing you're going to practice, and I will leave you on, just to wrap this up, is that you're going to kind of have to put that dream aside, to put it lightly. And you're not allowed to think about it anymore. If you think about it, you're going to go into a meditative state. You're going to practice meditating on the act of clearing your head. It could be breathing. It could be thinking about one singular chant. It could be learning just how to be present by practicing your thoughts. And it's okay if you don't have it down on lockdown, but you need to just practice it in order to exercise the ability of not thinking about money. So when you think about money, you're going to take a second and go, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to practice being present and what's happening in this current moment. And you can name a bunch of things, label a bunch of events and characteristics and taste, touch, and smells around you in order to bring you to the present moment. And you're going to slowly get off of this scenario. And then you're going to slowly practice the ability of going, oh, I see this, I let this go. I see this, I let this go. And you do this naturally, but if you ever notice you're not letting it go, you're going to take a moment to look back and be like, hey, remember when I, again, had that popsicle and then I let it go and I ate it and I'm not thinking about it now? Well, I'm going to bring that idea into here and I'm going to try practicing it. I'm just not going to think about it. And you think of the act again of thinking of practicing like short-term meditations, like minute-long meditations in that moment to get you out of that thought. And then eventually when you feel like you have a better handle on this, you will slowly introduce money, but slowly. I mean like once a month slowly. And then you are allowed to think about the idea of, oh yes, I'm wealthy. I want to be wealthy. I enjoy being wealthy. And you'll think about it for a scenario, and then you're going to pull off, give it lack of importance, and by practicing it slowly and then reintegrating it slowly, you will then in turn be able to teach it to be one of the very thoughts you've practiced letting go of. But I want you to understand you need to let go of it completely. You have to find happiness right now with what you have, because with what you have is enough. Breathe, relax. It's good enough. It's good enough. And just because you're not thinking about money and keeping a hold on it doesn't mean it won't still come your way. You could be not thinking about it all and in the next week or two get everything you've ever hoped for, and then be like, oh, what a win-win. I felt more relieved and I got everything I want. Wealth is not out of the equation. I want to reassure you of that. It's just that you need to give your thoughts the break. Do you see what I'm saying here? Now, one last thing I want to say is remember, if as you're developing this ability, it's difficult or you're finding it's hard and you keep going back to the thoughts and you feel like you're not doing it perfectly, do not beat yourself up. Be kind, be patient, be gentle with yourself. If it takes a while to develop this ability, that doesn't mean you've strayed from the path. You all are ready by hearing this reading, by hearing this knowledge, by then practicing it, at the minimum practicing it, changing the timeline. So I'm very excited for you in this scenario. And I'm just realizing I've been shaking the camera quite a bit out of enthusiasm. Apologies. Please tell me, I would love to know in the comments below, what's something you're going to do today? You're going to practice letting go of. What's a way? What's a method? I'd love to know. Or some way you like to jostle your thoughts or redirect it immediately, pulling you out of the moment. How are you going to practice it? What's something that's worked for you in the past? I'd love to know. If you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Helps out like you would not believe. The channel, I mean, and me. And maybe even share. I'm wishing you the best. I will see you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out, how can you become your higher self by looking at the cards. We've got the Hanged Man upright. Oh, Lemur. 8 of Pentacles upright. 9 of Cups upright. The Star card upright. And the 5 of Cups upright. You know, fun fact about lemurs, they are neither monkeys or apes. They're their own thing. Also, I really love in this card, I just noticed this, that he's kicking away the boundary of the card. That's such a great little detail. Okay, let's get started. I love the layout of this. So the center is your higher self. Now, this is going to seem kind of obvious, but remember, each reading is different. So something I've been saying time and time again is that your higher self might have similar qualities as other people who are their higher selves. Like, we're all loving, that if we were all our higher selves at the same time, we'd all be, you know, pretty knowledgeable, pretty patient, able to be more contemplative than reactive, things like that. However, you're still an individual as your higher version of yourself and have different things that give you personal delight. And for you and your personal delight for your higher self is that you have every single thing you've ever wanted. And I'm not just referring to material items, I'm referring to how you want your life to work out, how you feel as a person, everything, the whole shebang. And I know that might seem obvious for your higher self, but that's the delight that your higher self enjoys as being their higher self, is everything. And I want to be clear, everything. 9 of Cups is a scenario where you get 110% of everything you want, no catch. And I love that for you. So we're talking about how you essentially get there, but this is an indicator of the true bliss you're going to be experiencing. So I do want to put this in because this is one of those subtext things of like what it's implying. Understand that every time, one thing you can work towards and admire in the moment is whenever you experience something that you're like, wow, this is just how I wanted it to work out. Say that to yourself. Say that to yourself out loud. This is just how I want it to work out. And vibrationally put that out there often. I want things to work out just how they will make me exactly happy. Or my favorite affirmation I love saying is, thank you, universe, for having everything work out best case scenario. And don't worry about the details of what you think would be the exact thing that would make you happy. Be open-minded that you might not know exactly. You might think you might know what it makes you exactly happy. But consider that there's a scenario that does make you exactly happy, and when you fall into it, you'll be very happy. You might not know every detail now, it might not be privy to your knowledge, but you're going to love it and enjoy it. So definitely consider start saying that today. Everything's working out best case scenario. So continuing on from there, these other cards are the surrounding cards of the sort of blockages we're experiencing, and then where you can be focusing more of your energy towards to move you there. So here are 2 blockages. 5 of Cups, I can see there is a perspective issue as well as a grief problem. There's just some grief you're really suffering from. And this grief is calling away your attention from anything possibly good happening. You're not really giving the good a certain amount of weight, There's a weight to things. Try, at the minimum, I'm kind of skirting over this issue. I know I'm very into, if you know me as a reader, I'm very into being like, I see there's grief. Let's heal this. Let's heal that. That's actually not super important right now. We're just going to give you kind of the cliff notes. Just understand that I see there's grief and that you should try to turn your attention towards, well, yes, I might not feel great, but I'm going to, at the minimum, not ignore my grief, but understand that simultaneously I am also eating pancakes. And I'm more of a waffle girl. Please let me know in the comments, are you a pancake or waffle person? But you can look at your waffles or pancakes and admire them and be like, well, I'm doing this too. This is pretty great. And at least slowly start to change your shift in perspective. But that shift in perspective becomes a greater scenario when we have the Hangman. See over here, this is a card ruled by Neptune, and this talks about the idea between your conscious and your unconscious mind, and being able to have a better hold onto that, because right now your unconscious mind takes up a lot more attention. And we want to shift it in a more positive direction. Actually, I don't even know if I want to say your unconscious mind. We'll just say one of them is focusing all your attention into one scenario. We can see the result of that grief. And it's not making you feel too good. And to explain on that further, I want you to understand it's not about putting away your grief, because the unconscious and conscious mind is able to use things that maybe aren't to our liking, to our benefit. There's always something to learn or understand or experience or gain knowledge from. And it's not simply, people simplify it too much. The idea of like, well, this was painful, but it was a lesson to be learned. Yeah, you can put it that way, but when you're positively working with your conscious and unconscious mind, the grief you feel from something that was unpleasant to experience doesn't feel so intense. So when you're experiencing something that's uncomfortable and you'll be like, oh, well, I learned a life lesson from it. You essentially, instead of just being like, that was painful, but at least whatever, I'm trying to make the best of a scenario. When you're really intertwined between the beautiful flow between the conscious and unconscious mind, it just won't feel so bad. So anyways, going forward, how can we move you towards that? Well, we've got that scenario played out here in the 8 of Pentacles upright and the Star card upright. The 8 of Pentacles here is being beautifully ruled by the lemur. Actually, another fun fact, I just love lemurs so much. I just think they're wonderful. Did you know that if there's a group of them, they are called a conspiracy? And I think that's perfect because they always have the most bug-eyed looking expressions, and I just think it's so funny. Anyways, going past my love of lemurs. Lemurs, as a spirit animal, pop up when you are in much need of whimsy. They are able to really soak out of or suck up the most amount of joy out of any single scenario. They just can see it no matter how terrible it is. I don't want to say they see the cosmic joke, they see the cosmic fun in it all. And they are able to, in turn, have a really good time bouncing around, even if you'd be crying your eyes out if you were in any other state of mind. Now, that doesn't mean while you're crying your eyes out, it's asking you to find whimsy in it. Not at all. That idea is more being correlated behind the meaning of the 8 of Pentacles. So you're being asked to right now, in order to bring your conscious and unconscious mind more fluidly together, you're going to find out what is it something that you can do or that you do every day. And this is sort of how do I express this? Something that would be a routine that's working towards a greater dream. It doesn't have to be the biggest dream ever, but that you do every day, and it's about losing yourself in that present moment of that day-to-day thing that you do. So example, if it is a job, yes, you have dreams of having a promotion and wealth and all that jazz, but let's be real, you also lose yourself in the day-to-day accomplishing of tasks. That's what we're talking about. Or if maybe you want to get in shape and you're getting into doing maybe yoga every day. It's not about thinking about where you will be, but just you're doing yoga. You're focusing on the yoga in between. Think about that. You know what I mean? But then it's about getting really lost in that. Don't think about where you will be when we talk about getting everything you want, the higher version of yourself, all that jazz. Don't think about that. Just focus on that day-to-day thing to do. And that's going to pull you more and more into the present moment and bring your conscious and unconscious mind more fluidly together. And as you do the day-to-day, it is about finding the whimsy in it, the fun. The whimsy is more of the beautiful word, because fun is its own thing and whimsy is its own thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you resonate with that idea? And you're just meant to have a good time. And you might say, well, my job's boring. I don't feel... Stop. Find it. Figure it out. You will find it. Ask the universe for a sign or being able to see it, and then go towards it. Lead yourself there. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be your work if you don't resonate with that. It could be anything. I gave it a couple of different examples, but it needs to be the feeling of working towards something. Then you're not thinking about the ultimate goal and you're more in the day-to-day and enjoying it and really getting the most out of it, both with what you can learn, what you can enjoy, all that positive jazz. The other thing you can do is be aware of unexpected events. Now, unexpected events do not have to be big or scary. They can be fun and small. They can be maybe you were going to go out, sit by yourself again at work, at lunch, and you were going to do your own thing. And then somebody says, hey, do you want to go get a cup of coffee? Follow that unexpected event. This is like a really fun, small detail in the reading, because sometimes you're like, wait, I just do that and that gets me everything I want? Apparently, we don't need to know all the details. Just understand that when unexpected events pop up and you see them, follow them. See where they take you. Now, I do want to put this out there as a sort of disclaimer. You don't need to follow them forever. Just follow them initially and see where you can go from there. And I love that so much. So I'm excited for you and your unconscious mind and your grief to be left behind and everything to get kind of properly meshed together. Pay important attention to these and enjoy where you're going. And don't forget, like I said in the beginning, whenever something is working out beautifully, acknowledge that. Acknowledge you're getting what you want. Acknowledge you're enjoying how things are playing out. Put that vibration more out there. So, please let me know in the description below, what is the day-to-day thing you're going to be doing and working on? How would you categorize whimsy? That can really help out other people in the comments who are like, what the heck is that? I do not connect with that word. What does that mean? Tell them, help them. And by helping them, you in turn help yourself. So if you enjoyed this reading, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Have a gorgeous day. I will be seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.